Even from the little clip we've seen so far, we already know so much about the next Mario Kart. 24 racers, a Donkey Kong redesign, the tracks being so much larger in scale. There is one thing that I really want to see in the next Mario Kart that hasn't really been done in the series thus far: meaningful single-player content. Let's take a look at Mario Kart's past relationship with single-player content and ask ourselves what we might expect to see in this upcoming game. If a party game like Mario Kart, Mario Party, Mario Sports games, or Super Smash Bros. Has single-player content, it is usually secondary to the multiplayer competition aspect of the game. Throughout Nintendo's party game history, there have been varying levels of thought and care put into single-player modes in those games. I would say the best era for this type of content would be the GameCube to early Wii era. Not only was this a time where Nintendo developers had less creative restrictions and were more willing to experiment with the gameplay and characters, but the advent of online play hadn't yet taken over. So with these multiplayer games, the developers had to consider what players would do if they wanted to play the game by themselves. When online play became widespread, the developers knew that players would be able to play against other players no matter what. So sometimes single-player content was skipped. Mario Kart, unlike Mario Party, Mario Sports games, and Super Smash Bros., always seemed to kind of get away with not putting in meaningful single-player content. If you look at the first 4 Mario Kart games, playing single-player consists of nothing more than selecting cups and races the same way you would if you were playing with friends. Super Circuit started the trend of giving you some incentive to play the cups in single-player, since it would unlock new courses. And Double Dash expanded on this by giving a different interesting reward for each cup completed in each CC class. Even though these unlockables encouraged the player to engage with races by themselves, it still lacked a story, it still lacked a solid sense of progression, and it lacked a subversion of the regular gameplay. And even though the first 4 Mario Kart games lacked story modes, Diddy Kong Racing, released on the Nintendo 64, did revolve around a story mode, which gave the player a solid sense of progression and immersion that Mario Kart has never achieved. Then Mario Kart DS came along, and with it came Mission Mode. With these missions, you are given little challenges that revolve around subverting the standard Mario Kart gameplay. They can be something simple like driving through hurdles or collecting coins, or something more complex like defeating all the enemies or driving backwards. And of course, there were the boss battles. Seeing boss characters realized in Mario Kart was just such a treat, and I can't believe it's something the series has never brought back. When Mario Kart Wii came out, I expected the mission mode to stay, but it just didn't. Now, Mario Kart Wii actually did have missions and boss battles programmed into the game, but they were limited time events. Only one would appear every 2 weeks or so, and the previous ones would be erased from the game entirely. And since there's no more internet for the Wii and the whole mission thing was discontinued in 2014, you can't play the missions in Mario Kart Wii at all anymore. Why did the developers do this? Why would they design interesting and engaging single-player content and then actively hide it from the player base? This is one of the most egregious, ridiculous design choices I have ever seen in a Nintendo game. And then mission mode never came back, and single-player content in Mario Kart would be effectively ignored. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the largest game by a lot, but apparently there was no room for missions. So now that I've complained about Mario Kart's lacking of single-player content, I do want to step into Nintendo's shoes and consider why these decisions were made. So whether or not someone wants to purchase a game will often boil down to how often they think they will play it. The more content a game has, the more a person will feel like they are getting their money's worth. With games that are primarily multiplayer, one would need to actually be around other people in order to engage with the bulk of the content, meaning they likely will put less time into the game. So games like this need something that get the attention of the player even when they're by themselves. With that logic, all Mario Kart games should have dedicated single-player content, right? no, not exactly. Even before online play made it so you could play with anyone at any time, I think Nintendo realized that Mario Kart is still pretty fun just playing against CPUs, even without a broader story and subversion of the game mechanics. Mario Party and Super Smash Bros. Aren't fun at all just going into the standard game modes and setting yourself up to go against CPUs. So in the pre-online era, these games were challenged with coming up with meaningful single-player experiences, as their audience would have engaged with the games less if they hadn't. It's also a question of development time. If Mario Kart games had dedicated single-player modes, that would require development resources to be taken away from other aspects of the game, which would then weaken its main selling point, the racing. Or it would outright cause the game to be released later than intended, which could cost the company millions. Even with all that in mind, I do think Mario Kart 9 is in a perfect place to get single-player content. Here's why. Quick interruption, then back to the video. Just so you know, I also cover movies and TV shows over on my other channel, Stories Are Meaningful. And I just put out a video analyzing the Super Mario Bros. Movie. You should really check it out. Link in the description. So, the first thing that makes me think Mario Kart 9 may have single player is the size of the world around the track we see in the reveal. Most previous Mario Kart tracks have some sort of boundary, keeping the racers more enclosed. But this one looks out and open, and it seems that the trailer wanted us to pick up on that. There are even what seems to be alternate roads and paths. There's also been a trend of Nintendo acknowledging the single-player experience in the Switch era. For example, Super Mario Maker 2 had a story mode that its predecessor lacked. And while the story itself is a little lacking, just being a list of levels with little else to do, the actual design of the levels is really solid, and it offers a really fun offline single-player experience. Mario Party stopped getting single-player content in Mario Party 10, even though Mario Party 10 didn't even have online functionality. Weird. And that trend continued through Super Mario Party and Mario Party Superstars. But Super Mario Party Jamboree did include a story mode. It was awful. Check out my video criticizing it, link in the description. But it was there. They tried. They acknowledged single-player mode. I think that nowadays, with games getting bigger and needing to last longer, the single-player experience and the online experience can coexist rather than be an either-or. So, if Mario Kart 9 did get a story mode, what would it be like? Oh, what we currently know about the game is quite small, so there's not much I can really say. However, I would like to see some kind of cross between Diddy Kong Racing and Mario Kart DS's mission mode. I'd want to see lots of cool missions and boss battles that subvert the traditional racing gameplay, but also I really think there is something special about Diddy Kong Racing's world map, and the concept of driving your car around to get to all the tracks. Perhaps these larger tracks are all connected in some way, and while Lakitu would keep you from going off course in the main racing mode, in the story mode, you are free to explore and find new things around the world. If there is a story mode, I just hope it isn't an afterthought, as single-player content often is in games like this. With something like the Subspace Emissary in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, that single-player content defined the entire game. With something like the Party Planner track in Super Mario Party Jamboree, it seemed like they designed the whole game, realized they had enough time to make single-player content, decided, sure, whatever, and then just phoned it in. I hope in the era of the Switch 2, the game developers can do better than that. Hey, if you like this video, maybe you should check out this other video right here. Or if you want to watch me play games over on my stream highlight channel, you can check out this video right here. If you like what I do and want to see me do more of it, consider becoming a channel member or supporting my Patreon. Link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.